Hello, Brett Etheridge here with USANA's Thrive team, and I'd like to talk with you just a few minutes about having 1 versus 3 business centers in USANA, what it means and why it's so important if you're serious about making income in USANA that you start with 3 business centers. Now I'm going to show you an illustration here in a second that I think is going to really open your eyes, maybe even blow your mind. I think I'm going to make it very practical, very concrete for you. But before I do that, I just kind of want to talk big picture for a second. Now my guess is you fall into one of 3 categories. Some of you watching this video may be actually just about to start your USANA business. Congratulations, I'm excited for you. And you may be trying to decide, do I want to start with 1 business center? Do I want to start with 3 business centers? The reality is that anybody who makes any serious amount of money in USANA, all of USANA's top leaders, all started with 3 business centers. We all have 3 business centers. And again, I'm going to show you why here in a moment. Now, some of you may only have 1 business center currently, but you may be in that time period where you have the ability to upgrade to 3 business centers. And you might be trying to decide, is it worth that little extra bit of money, buying a little bit more product, either for my own consumption or to resell those products, to upgrade to 3 business centers. And as you're going to see, any short-term additional expenditure on your part is going to be well worth it in the future by having those 3 business centers. And finally, for others of you, you may already be locked into your USANA business, either with one or even 3 business centers, and you're using this video as a training opportunity just to try to better understand kind of what is that difference? How does USANA's compensation plan work? So I'm going to show you that here again in one more second, but before I do, let me just talk big picture. You know, one of the things that is so brilliant about USANA's business model, I mean, when you think about why this business is so awesome, why it's so different certainly than a traditional job, why it's different than other traditional types of businesses that a lot of people have, why it's different than any other type of sales business, for example. You know, there are a lot of reasons, but one of the most important is a word that's so crucial, and that word is leverage. Leverage is the ability of getting paid multiple times on your effort and getting paid for more than your own effort. And one of the best ways to take advantage of leverage in your USANA business is by having 3 business centers. Let me show you what I mean. Take a look at this. All right, so how does USANA's business work? You see on the left, your business center is essentially like a store. Here you see it called a shop. It's no different than if instead of doing a USANA business, you decided to open a Subway franchise, for example. You can open 1 Subway franchise if you have several $100,000, or you can open 3 of them if you want to increase your earning potential. And that's essentially what it boils down to in USANA. Having multiple business centers, 3 of you, 3 shops, 3 stores instead of just 1, gives you that leverage, that ability to earn multiple times on the same effort. So let's go through an example. I want to be very, very basic and very, very simple. Let's assume that literally all you do in USANA is find 4 customers. That's it. We're just going to talk about a world where you have 4 customers, right? And these 4 customers, I'm just going to kind of draw a line to represent Bob, right? And here's the further assumption. We're going to assume that each of your 4 customers, so we're going to have Bob and Jan, are consuming $500 worth of USANA products. Okay. Now in USANA we go by a point system, so let's actually think of this as 500 points, but a point is roughly equal to $1, just to make the math easy. It's easier a lot of times, especially if you're looking at this for the first time, to think in terms of dollars. So we have Bob who's consuming $500 worth of product, Jan who's using $500 worth of product, Tom who's also doing $500 worth of product, and we'll go with Sue, right? Sue who's also doing 500. Now again, these could be multiple customers, right? Maybe Bob alone doesn't do $500 worth, but maybe this is actually 5 customers who each do 100. Or it could just be Bob who comes in with an entrepreneur pack. Remember, an e-pack by itself, a startup package, is 500 points by itself, right? But I certainly have customers who by themselves and their family use over $500 a month of USANA products. So the point is, it's illustrative for these purposes. Now, how does USANA's compensation plan work? So we're in a world where we have only 4 customers using $500 worth of product each, and as we know, 500 plus 500 is 1,000, right? And USANA has what's called a binary compensation plan, and all that means is that we get paid on the common point balance between 2 sides of our business, between the left side and the right side. And USANA pays 20% of that common balance. So here's what this means. If you have one store, one business with USANA, and you have these types of volumes, these number of customers consuming this amount of product, you're going to earn 20% of that 1,000 points that is common to both sides, or, the math is easy, $200, right? Congratulations, 200 bucks. Not bad for only 4 customers moving, just a little bit of product. Now here is the benefit of having 3 business centers. So I hope that's clear, right? That's how it would work with one business center. It's very simple. 20% of the common point balance between your left and the right side of your business center. Now let's assume the exact same situation. Now this is where leverage comes in. Let me be very clear. I hope it's very clear when I draw this. You still are going to have the same number of customers. In fact, let me draw it in. Here's Bob with his 500 points of product. Here is Jan with her 500 points of product. Let me ask you, have I added any new customers? No, I still have Bob and I still have Jan. I still have Tom with his 500, and I still have Sue with her 500. Again, I ask you, have I added any new customers? No. Have I created any new sales volume? No. In fact, let's be clear. Bob's orders plus Jan's orders equals how many total points? 1,000. It's the same 1,000 we saw here. Does that make sense? Tom's orders plus Sue order, same, 1,000 points of product. Have I added any new volume? No. The only thing that has changed is that I have 3 business centers now benefiting from these points instead of just 1. Now let's take a look at how it works. Well, this top business center is the exact equivalent of this business center, and it pays the exact same, right? You have 1,000 points and 1,000 points, and we already learned that you earn 20% of those common points, or 20% of 1,000, or $200. Very simple, right? But remember that term I used earlier, leverage? Leverage becomes important. Because here's what happens. Because you were smart enough to get started with 3 business centers, even though it was a little bit more product you had to purchase initially, maybe a couple $100 extra to get started with your USANA business, not a big deal in the grand scheme of things. Here's what happens. See this 1,000 points? It paid you $200 up here on this top business center, but let's be very clear. It is also part of this business center number 2. And that business center 2 is like its own store. It's like if you had a separate Subway franchise across town, that separate Subway franchise is like its own entity. In USANA, it's no different. Your second store is its own independent entity. You own it. It is an additional business that has leverage. It will earn a second time on Bob's orders and Jan's orders. In fact, just looking at Business Center 2 in isolation, what is the common points between the left and right side of Business Center 2? 500 points. And USANA is also going to pay you an additional 20% of those common points. 20% of 500 points is $100. It's going to pay you an additional $100 for the same work. We didn't add any new customers. Bob didn't order any more product. It's still Bob's 500 points and Jan's 500 points. You just earn an additional $100 on it. Brilliant. Makes sense, right? And then let's look over here at Business Center 3. The exact same thing happens, right? Because Tom's orders and Sue's orders pay you an additional time. In fact, to the tune of 20% of those common 500 points, or an additional $100. Now let's zoom back out and look big picture. The only thing that has changed is that you were smart enough to have 3 business centers instead of 1. And let's look at the punchline. Instead of just earning $200 like you would have earned with 1 business center, you have 200 plus 100 plus 100 for a grand total of $400. Now let me ask you, for the same work, for the same effort, would you rather make $400 or $200? It's a no-brainer. And in fact, literally in this 1 week or 1 month or however long it took you to find your 4 customers, you've already made back any additional money it would have cost you to start with 3 business centers. So it really is a no-brainer. Now let's take it even a step further and let me do some quick math. Let's look what this would look like over the course of a year. Let's say Bob, Jan, Tom, and Sue only ordered their $500 every month. These are just monthly orders. Every month they're ready for some new product, or their team is ready for some new product, right? Here's the point. This $200 will pay you 12 times for the same work. Remember leverage? Why? Because you don't have to resell to Bob, Jan, Tom, and Sue. They're going to order these products another time and another time at the end of every month anyway. That's leverage. That's getting paid multiple times for the same effort. So you may earn $2,400 over the course of the year with these 4 customers. And even if you factor in your monthly requirement to keep the doors to your store open, you're still going to be netting roughly $1,200. So again, not bad. You're not getting rich, but the point is it's a little extra income for 4 customers with 1 business center. But let's look at what would happen over the course of the year with 3 business centers, right? You would have 4, see, it gets amplified, it gets multiplied. You would have $400 paying you 12 times over the course of the year. In other words, every month. That equals, I'm no mathematician, but that's $4,800. That's twice as much over the course of the year. And even if you factor in your monthly cost, it's still a net profit of over almost $2,400. Now let's build it out. Let's assume, right, because most people who are going to build a USANA business are going to find more than 4 customers, and they're going to build a team that creates more generated revenue, more generated volume than just a couple thousand points. In fact, most of us would have a business that would be producing this not just every month, but every week. So now let's take a look at a scenario where you actually have this going on every single week, right? With 1 business center, you would have 2,400 times 4 is $9,600, okay? Again, not bad. 10,000 bucks extra in your pocket as a part-time job if you just find a couple of customers ordering every single week. That's great. $10,000 isn't bad. But take a look. If we did this every single week with 3 business centers, again, now you're looking at closer to $20,000, right? That would be $19,200, $19,200, something like that. So the point is almost $20,000, again, leverage. Same work. I didn't add any new names, no new customers. Same amount of sales volume, no new clients. The difference is, obviously, I'd rather walk away with almost $20,000 instead of almost $10,000 for what? Just a couple hundred extra dollars as startup cost, right? So there you have it. I hope you see the value. I hope this kind of made a little bit more sense if you weren't quite sure the difference between 1 and 3 business centers and how they work. And if you're just looking at this for the first time, again, I hope you see how it really is a no-brainer. I mean, they're products you're going to want to use anyway. Short-term sacrifice for long-term gain. Yes, it is a little bit of extra money to get started with 3 business centers, but anybody who's serious about this business certainly starts with 3 business centers. But even if you're thinking, I just kind of want to maybe play around with it, see if it works, remember that you own these business centers for life. USANA's not going to take them away from you. So once you buy them, once you own them, whether you keep them active or not, doesn't matter. It's worth getting them now when you have that narrow window, of having to decide, do I want 1 or 3? Because whether you take advantage of them yet or not, get them. Get them, because sometime down the road, maybe a year from now, maybe 5 years from now, maybe at some point you will decide to get a little bit more serious about this business. Why not get paid twice for the same effort. Makes a lot of sense to me. So with that, hope this has been helpful. I'm excited to see you guys activate 3 business centers and get your business launched, and certainly let us know what we can do to help. May you love life, may you live it, and may you truly thrive.